Writing music. Put me in trouble. Hello. Don't mind this.
It's my arrangement. They'll never recognize it.
All right. Hello, everyone. This is Mark and Gary from Gary's Guitars, and we're here to do our weekly hangout and talking about guitars show with you. So, if you're new to this, if you're watching live, leave a question or comment in the chat section. If you're
it's not our guitar, we don't want to knock it over.
If you are watching after the fact, you can leave comments in the comment section, and then we'll address that in the next week's show. I'm having a little technical difficulty here, so
I could keep playing the song.
No, please don't. But first of all, we'll ask you just to chime in and say hi in the comments, because we want to know that you're out there watching and that someone's watching somewhere. Gary, tell us how your day went.
Starting when I got here or before I got here? So 2 different days.
Yeah.
Since I got here, it's been nonstop customers buying stuff.
Good.
I did sneak in quick repair and dealt with another customer. No, 2 other customers who brought in guitars that were either fine or they need serious work, like this guitar that we're going to talk about in a few minutes. Had a young customer who, after trying a few different amps, told me what he was looking for. Oh, a bluesy amp, Eric Clapton. Oh, we got a Vibrolux Reverb.
He bought a good amp.
Reissue, $5.99. Played it for half an hour. His dad was just nodding his head up and down. Yeah.
You just gotta get that one.
That's the sound. That's the sound you want.
Yeah.
It's gone. So that's always nice to find the right amp and for the player. And then I didn't eat lunch, and then I sat down and started playing my version of a song I'm not going to name.
So we don't get in trouble.
Don't want to get monetized, or we do want to get monetized.
I don't want to get demonetized.
Demonetized.
That's the evil word, demonetize. Okay, so let's. So we usually dig in. We start off with one of our own topics, and then we go to whatever you got to talk about as the comments roll in. So once again, leave a comment in the chat section and we will talk. So one thing before we get to that guild there and guild problems, you mentioned earlier today, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit as well. So you talked about the people needing to understand the difference between balanced and unbalanced.
Oh, of course.
Why?
Yeah.
TRS, TS, TRRS.
TRS and TS. It's enough said. And XLR. I was going to, stop whatever I was doing about 5:30 and get some cables and some raw wire and some plugs. And
so this is what the people got to know. What is TS? What's the T and the R and the S?
If you look at your guitar plug on the end of your cord, it's a TS. It means it has a long section and then a little tip. When there's a black band or a white band, that little tip is the tip.
Yeah. So the S is shield, or it's the the tip, ring, sleeve.
The bigger part is the sleeve.
Yeah.
So tip, sleeve. That means there's 2 wires in there. One is the hot wire from your guitar, which carries the signal. And of course, like anything electric, there has to be a ground to complete the circuit. In a guitar wire, it's a shield. It's wrapped around the hot wire, and you end up with 2 wires, tip, sleeve, into your amp. Works fine.
Here it is.
There's a tip and a sleeve.
That's the standard instrument cable that we use these days.
The drawback to it for the guitar is hardly worth mentioning, except after, depending on who you read, is 20 feet or 30 feet before you get noticeable signal loss. So as long as you're less than 20 feet or 30 feet of cable, you're fine.
Yeah.
You get up to 50 feet,
either way.
you're going to lose a little something. It's still going to work. I know somebody that used to lug around a 100-foot cable so he could walk to the other end of the club. He just turned his amp up a few more notches and it was fine. But in the studio,
All right, well, let's talk about this.
tip, ring, sleeve.
Okay.
So tip, sleeve, and that middle section is the ring. So now there's two hots and a shield. The hots go to the tip and the ring, and then the shield goes to the sleeve like it did on the TS plug.
So these are commonly called stereo plugs because you use them for stereo headphones. And
Yeah,
you can
those
carry...
two hots can be left and right,
Mhm.
or in the musical world, on a microphone cable mostly, it's hot, which actually is the same thing. It just that extra hot allows indefinite cable lengths without a lot of noise. So you can have
That's
100-foot cables.
why we call it balanced.
Balanced.
There's two.
And then you have your shield wrapped around it to keep it quiet. Typically on a microphone, you don't have that TRS plug. You have an XLR cable, same difference, just different shape. So they both work.
All of the props. What is this prop comedy?
I was going to do this before, but we can do it after.
So this here is an XLR. And this particular cable goes XLR to TRS.
Yep.
Now it's appropriate also. Well, you continue.
So they exist because in the guitar world, you don't need a TRS cable to get your sound 20 feet or less and be fine, because the signal coming out of a guitar pickup is relatively hot compared to what comes out of a microphone.
And it's not, it's very high impedance and it's not balanced. There is no sense in having a TRS if you're not sending a balanced signal.
Right.
So.
And you need that balanced signal in microphones because you don't want 60 cycle hum. You want to be able to run 100-foot cables to the sound man out there and back and whatever. Or if you're in the studio, you don't want all the time. So thus the balanced cable. Aside from that, the only thing I was going to mention was the different qualities of cables and plugs. That takes a little more show and tell, but basically better cables have a good thickness of wire, roughly 22 gauge, maybe 20. You can't go much bigger than that. Otherwise, there's too much resistance. And a good shield. Cheap cables have a very flimsy shield. You can actually see the wire inside. If you can see the wire inside of your shield, it's not good enough. Old cables, Beldens, they had braided shields, which were like 99% covering this, and a real pain to take apart to resolder. Yeah. But that's the way it should be done. Nowadays, you can get probably 80%, and that's fine. But I've seen some cheap cables that were like 50% coverage, not doing much. So that's basically it. Plugs are the same thing. There's switchcraft.
And what happens when you plug a TRS into a TS?
Into a guitar, for example? Nothing.
Nothing. It works.
It works because that ring will just get shorted to ground, and so you still have your hot and your ground.
But what happens when you put the TS in place of a TRS?
You get one half of your signal.
And it's instantly unbalanced. It grounds half of the signal and cuts your signal in half.
So if you had stereo headphones, for example, you'd hear one side, but not the other. Unless you pull it out one click, and then you hear the other side, but not that side.
So the important thing, and this is where the microphone thing comes in a little bit too, but the thing to remember here is that in order for something to, so because you're plugging in an XLR or because you're plugging in a 1/4 inch, so ordinarily the 1/4 inch input is line level and the XLR is microphone level, but they don't have to be that way. And a TRS plug can get plugged into the line level and sometimes not. And sometimes things that are this plug are actually microphone level and sometimes they're actually line level. So the important thing is, if you're plugging your guitar into an amplifier directly, that's easy. If you want to go into a mixing console, best to use a direct box to match that signal. It converts it to low impedance, and you can go into the microphone side of the input. That also will probably do away with the. So what low impedance does? So the guitar pickup is very high impedance, very low wattage. when it gets into the transformer and goes around circles and circles and circles, it changes the impedance, it brings the impedance down, and brings the strength of the signal up a little. There's nothing that's lost really. It's just kind of redesigned a little, and that lower impedance signal will and it's balanced and it will travel along a microphone cable well.
A lot of you probably know that Les Paul and Gibson had a falling out in the
Yeah.
mid to late 50s because Les had designed the Les Paul. I don't think he called it that, but Gibson redesigned it almost immediately because he designed it as a low impedance instrument with a transformer inside. So you could plug a tip ring sleeve, XLR plug, whatever, run cables to your house and back. Gibson said, that's way too complicated. Nobody else does that. And it's no. And Les wasn't happy, but they did end up probably giving him lots of money and everything was fine. So there are examples of low impedance guitars.
Ironically, many years later, Gibson made a low impedance, the Gibson Les Paul recording, and it went over like a fart in church.
Yeah.
Nobody liked it.
Right. The tip ring sleeve cable also appears in stereo guitars, mostly Rickenbackers. If you have a Rickenbacker and you see that little thing Ricco sound, that means each pickup is wired separately to the tip and the ring of a tip ring sleeve cable. So when you plug a TRS plug in there, you have stereo. So one pickup goes to one amp and the other pickup goes to the other. It's not really stereo. It's something.
Well,
enhanced mono.
Stereo. Yeah. Technically, it's two separate signals going through two separate things. But.
Have just for minutia's sake, the Jerry Garcia Tiger, because I've done this a few times for people, requires a tip ring sleeve plug. Because what the Tiger does, it has basically an effects loop in the guitar. So you plug a tip ring sleeve into one jack, goes to your effects and back into the guitar circuitry, this was Alembic guys in there. They were taking LSD probably. But they thought that was, and maybe they're right. Electronically, maybe that's the best place for your effects.
The effects loop
right
in
into
the guitar.
your guitar.
Hopefully
And then
Peter
out a
Squires
stereo
is
cable.
watching this.
But I'm not doing any more Tiger circuits. Unless you give me a lot of money.
Yeah, that's no fun. It takes most of a day to wire.
It's a lot of stuff. You got to get the circuitry,
Just cram it in
drill a
there.
hole, make holes in your Strat for two jacks. It's crowded. But so there are instances of tip ring sleeve, three conductor stuff in guitars, but mostly it's microphones and related things.
All right, so I guess we might be boring them a little here. No one's talking.
Okay, is anybody listening?
No, yeah, people are out there, but they are not participating in the chat.
Okay.
So. Maybe we'll go on to this. This is going to be also a barn burner of sorts, but I want to talk about this. So first of all, let's preamble this with guitars are not good. Here's a platitude, maybe or here's a postulate. I'm going to postulate this. Guitars are not a good fit, not a good hobby for people who like things to be precise. Because guitars are made out of wood, usually, if the good ones are. And wood is constantly changing. And it's also drying constantly, and it's constantly moving and pressure when you put pressure on it in certain ways. So that is my segue into the skill.
But I'll quote Keith first.
Okay.
Keith Richards, I think I've said this before here, but I'll say it again because I love saying it. The guitar is an imperfect instrument, and that's why we love it.
And then I probably said my Keith Richards quote, which is this little thing he did on, I think it was a commercial for VH1. He goes, "Yeah, man, the guitar, you got one of these, you'll never be alone. It's you got it's real simple. You got 22 frets and 6 strings." When he counted the strings on the guitar. Now it's funny if Keith Richards plays a 5-string guitar sometimes. Maybe you just double checking.
Which one did I just grab?
Still, it's funny. You got 20. He knew exactly how many frets, but not the strings. So let's talk about this guild. This happens, let's see, weekly at least. Sometimes, some days daily. Some days, someone walks in with a guitar they like, and they say, "Hey, can you lower the action?" I heard there was this magic wand buried inside the neck that you just turn it, and it magically lowers the action. And so we take a look at the guitar, and oftentimes a truss rod adjustment is in. But sometimes we look at it, and the neck is straight. The neck is not bad. It's got other problems. And we're here to talk about beautiful old guilds and neck resets. Because as these instruments are becoming 40, 50 years old now, 60 in some cases, they all seem to need neck resets.
Show them the saddle. That's the giveaway.
Okay, so
See how little saddle there is there.
when you look sideways,
Somebody
the
has
saddle's been
already tried to
sanded
fix this
down quite a
problem.
bit. Yeah.
The only other way you can fix it, which is to lower the saddle. And I mean, it's playable, but it's not great.
All right. So let me show you what the test I do for this, which is you often see us sighting the neck, which is, you look down the neck for straightness. A string is perfectly flat, so you can kind of use that as a comparison as well. You already have an instrument there. But when we check for the top of the guitar and the neck set, you look at the guitar flat, so there's no
pretty flat.
And there'll be a little dip here usually, and a little bubble here, and maybe some bridge rotation, but it's essentially flat. And then, so check this. So to you, it looks like there's no horizon. It's just completely flat. And then change your glance to the neck. You should only be able to see the just the nut popping up in the horizon. But on this guitar, and I don't know if you can see it from there, you see the whole neck. You see the entire fingerboard.
It's up
Yeah.
this way too much.
The whole thing is tilted. So, ergo, the neck set is bad. So positive neck set is when the neck is pulled backwards, and that's how they're all made. And over time, 200-ish pounds of pressure pull it forward. And the change usually happens. Sometimes you can see a gap here, but sometimes you just see the change is subtle. It's just this whole part of the guitar folding in a little bit. Like I say, you get that dip there, sometimes a bump, and it doesn't take a lot of movement to severely raise your string action.
64th of an inch here is like a quarter of an inch over there.
Here, yeah. So
world.
this little bit of turn, but this has a good neck set. It is tight, but it's going to need to get reset because the strings are high, the saddle's all the way down. All that geometry is out of whack. So that's how you look for it, because, and this is always Yamaha. Everyone who walks in with a red, hey, I found a red label Yamaha on Craigslist, and it sounds so good.
But
the action's a little high. Can you look at it for me?
We can look at it, sure.
Yeah, we'll look at it.
But I don't have to.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
70s, you said. Yamaha, you said. Yeah, neck reset.
Neck reset. Yeah. Just.
Well, this customer asked me, I called him to tell him this a few hours ago. Was this a problem at the factory? Or what? Did I do something wrong? I said, no, it's normal for guitars.
It's a 40-year-old guitar.
25% of acoustic guitars in the world need a neck reset. Some of them are unplayable. Some of them are like yours. It's okay.
It could stay like that forever. Probably.
I can play it. It's not great action, but
yeah,
I can play it. I wish the saddle was higher because that kind of kills some tone.
Yeah, tone transference.
So, it's a nice guitar that's operating at 70% probably.
Yeah.
They said, well, okay, if I get it done, will it stay? Said, well, the neck's probably not going to come loose, but it could
continue
do its thing.
As a matter of fact, I have a guitar that got a neck reset a few years back, and then, sometimes they creep a little more when they have more room to creep. So it's a Gibson though, and so I got to keep it 62. You're 64 Gibson. So.
When I told them the price, I said, "Well, the neck reset saddle that might need a little fretwork. We see some inconsistency. Maybe $650, just approximate ballpark. Well, is it worth it? Well, it's your guitar. I mean, it's probably worth more than that.
Yeah, the guitar itself, but he's had it the whole time, I think.
I bought it new?
Yeah, not new, but he bought it in 1974 or something. So it's just time to pay your dues. Time to
So he's thinking about it. He might pick it up tomorrow, or he might tell us to go ahead and do it.
Yeah, and so
We'll see.
these days, the neck reset is the guy who's doing it for us. It's a flat rate. It's $500.
Oh, he's doing a flat rate for it?
I think pretty much all the neck resets are $500 because here's the thing about the neck reset. You're going to take a joint that used to be perfect 40 years ago, now is imperfect, take it apart, re-engineer it, and put it back together. There's a lot of skill and a lot of trial and error that you can't take too much wood off. So you got to take a little bit off, put it together, look at it, string it up, take it off, put it on, shim it. It is days of work. So he's gotten now that, so even the easy ones, the hard ones, whatever, you never know what you're going to run into in a neck reset.
To me, it's like way more complicated than adjusting a truss rod, but it's kind of the same thing. It's kind of like adjusting a truss rod with no strings on it.
It's like adjusting the truss rod while you're walking a tightrope.
Yeah, because
That
you can
is-
guess.
Yeah.
You know, if you've done it 100 times, you probably get really close.
Probably a good guesser, and guessing has a lot to do
Put
with
it back
too,
together,
with
string it
math.
up, and go, I should have gone another 164th of an inch,
Yeah.
but oh well. I'm not taking it apart again.
Or you got to take it
Or you
apart.
take it apart
again.
again.
Do it, yeah. That's
Yeah.
yeah, it is no fun. It's not just take it apart and put it back together. It is take it apart and it's open heart surgery for your guitar, essentially. A lot of guitars need it. I have a Harmony Sovereign that's needed a neck reset the entire time I've had it, and I got it about 20 years ago.
You never got it done?
Never got the neck reset, and it stayed in about the same place all this time. I did take some precautions. I had some sister braces installed, and some extra little braces that
Around the sound hole.
Yeah, sound hole bracing because they're ladder brace. That's a whole other story.
Keeps the top from caving in like they like
Yeah.
to do.
All right, so let's do a recap here. You're watching Gary's Guitars Weekly Guitar Talk. If you're out there watching, say hi. Analog Blues says hi.
Hi.
Anyone else, just let us know you're out there and say hi. If you have any questions or comments about what we're talking about, or more specifically, anything that you want us to talk about, you put that into the comments, the chat that's live. And if you're watching it after the fact, in the comments below. So it is a nice guild. Guild values are going up.
Yeah.
So guilds are you can still get them kind of cheap. I think people just realize that they're really good guitars and they're well made, and they all kind of need that reset now.
Yeah. Well, I was certainly of the generation that appreciated guilds more than younger people do. They were local. They were made in Brooklyn originally, and then Rhode Island. So if you're in New Hampshire, it's like they were made down there, not far away. And they were
away.
The poor man's Martin is the way we used to call it. Of course, back then, you could buy a brand new Martin for $250. You could get the guild for $175, and it was basically the same thing. But $75 was a good week's pay back then, so it was something. They have, since the 90s, they've had a pretty checkered history, being sold and pawned off and this and that. And
being pawned off is the best thing that's happened to them now. So what happened was, so they were bought by Fender. The Fender acquisition triggered a OSHA inspection of the warehouse that got shut, the factory that got instantly shut down.
Oh, is that what happened?
That's what
I still remember reading about it in the trades. Fender buys guild. No, please.
To put them out of business now.
But we promised we're going to not change anything. We're just going to own the factory and let them do their thing. I said, okay.
That was their intention.
Until a year later, they're made in China.
Yeah, so they had nowhere to make them, literally. So they switched to all Asian manufacturing. And some of those guitars are good, and some of them aren't.
Yeah.
They just didn't quite know what to do with Guild. And then they brought back some U.S. manufacturing. And then
in Corona, I think.
Someone, I believe, in a Fender, maybe part of the Fender investor group, wanted to leave, and as their severance, they got Guild.
Oh, really?
So the current owner of Guild just kind of got it on a deal. He just made a
Cordoba owns
us. Oh, it was Cordoba. Yeah. So
they did that. He sold it to Cordoba.
His thing was a swap, whatever stock swap, and so that now Guild is in better hands, I'd say.
Yeah, they're sort of ignoring the history of the poor man's Martin, though. Now you can buy a high-end
Yeah, well,
guild for
everyone's
$3,500. It's just as good as that Martin for $3,500.
Yeah,
So that's a good thing. They're making great guitars, but they're not the mojo's gone.
yeah.
So,
I mean, there was a certain Spartan nature to some of the guilds.
oh yeah, they were
especially,
never.
you know,
They didn't make a D4. Well, no, they did.
they made some fancy electrics. Though,
Yeah, the
too,
D60s in the later years.
Yeah. But yeah, the unbound fingerboard, just basic. They made those mahogany guitars in the '80s that
Mhm.
sounded great. Cost $300 new and folded up like a card
The
table.
B15s, D15s.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
The Heaven or Hell guitar.
Yeah.
They're either great or they're really awful.
All right. So, as a related something or other, I just want to talk about guitar materials. We're talking about the top distortion, like that, having that little ripple in the top occur. That happens on a lot. Most guitars get a little bit of it.
Yeah.
There's a hole in your guitar, and everything wants to fall into that hole.
Right.
So everything's going to be pulled into that spot where there's nothing. It's like a black hole, except it's a tone hole.
That's how Chris Pern defined his job as a guitar builder. How to make a guitar and prevent the neck and the bridge from diving into the hole, because that's where they want to go.
Yeah. But I want to talk about solid woods versus plywoods. I don't think we talked about that here before.
Not in a while,
So,
anyways.
Yeah. Solid woods, there's more and more guitars coming with solid tops, economy guitars specifically. Most quality guitars have at least a solid top.
Yeah.
You can have an all
acoustic guitars.
Yeah, acoustic guitars.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
You can have an all solid acoustic guitar now for starting at $800-ish. So the top does most of the work.
70%, I was told.
70% of the work.
Back and sides do the other 30%.
The back and sides hold on to the top and make a chamber for resonance. Yeah. So it's much more important that your top be solid wood, and plywood back and sides. It's all right. It's not that when we say plywood, we're not talking about that gnarly stuff they have at Home Depot. It's usually 3 plies, and each ply is at an angle to the ply before it, and it's to give strength. And it also makes it easier to form the sides rather than heat and bend and heat and bend, trying to get that guitar shape out of solid wood. They can just glue the 3 plies together in context, and it just stays in that shape. There's an ease of working, but important that you get the solid top guitar. Although there's some plywood guitars, including those legendary Yamahas, that are just plywood guitars.
Yeah.
They sound
a good plywood
fine.
guitar has a legitimate tone. There are some really awful plywood guitars too.
Yeah. We have actually. Now that I'm doing.
Used to be the Robert Johnson sound.
Yeah.
That was a thing for a while. How do I get Robert Johnson sound? Well, you find an old, smallish plywood acoustic.
Yeah.
That sounds, doesn't have any bass.
Although in the one photo of him, he's pictured with a Gibson.
Yeah, he did play a Gibson too.
So the Recording King, which we sell here, is an old 30s guitar style thing.
Right.
Since I'm doing prop comedy, here is a good sounding, slightly out of tune, plywood guitar. People walking in, picking it up, playing it, going, that's pretty cool.
It works.
Yeah.
And it's pre-dinged.
Yes, you don't have to worry about dinging it because this is
A couple scratches, who cares? It'll still be worth $99.
So it is possible to have an okay sounding, but to have a great sounding guitar, you do need the solid top. Unless you're really trying to defy the laws of physics. If you're Robert Taylor, probably just as an experiment, made a plywood top guitar. He does some strange stuff. Taylor did the.
Does beg the question: has Robert Taylor ever made a great sounding guitar?
Oops! Yeah, don't even. Well, Taylor did that thing where they made a guitar out of the pallet,
right?
That the wood came on.
Yeah, some old pine.
whatever the pallet's made of. They're just a mix of wood probably, and they planed it up and made a guitar out of it just to show that the workmanship is more important than materials.
More telling are the graphite guitars.
Yeah.
Which there have been two prominent ones.
Rain Song,
thank you. And the composite, whatever or other that PV bought and then drove into the ground.
There's a few companies that are doing it.
Shockingly,
They
okay.
sound good.
And there's not an ounce of wood in there, so top distortion, neck bending, that doesn't happen. It's like a Steinberger. They're pretty indestructible. And you'd think that plastic is not going to work, but they do something.
Well, carbon fiber is not quite plastic,
Well,
but
yeah,
but it's
synthetic.
it is a weird. Yeah, it is not wood.
They're okay. Of course, they're $2,000 to $3,000.
What about the Ovation with the plastic back?
They don't
Solid
sound
top.
okay.
Some people love Ovations. Don't be.
They were made to be
bad.
plugged in.
Yep, yeah, that's it. Yeah.
I don't know if the original Ovations had pickups, but that'd
Probably
be
not.
my guess. Because acoustically, they don't have the sound that I like. But plugged in 1978, amazing sound.
Yeah, they were the first guitar you could plug in and play with a rock band.
Yeah. But other than that, not a big fan.
So once again, for people joining us, just say hi in the comments there. Ask anything that you want to ask. Your video is exactly repeating what you said before. Oh, you might have went to the restart. There's a way to watch from the beginning while you're watching, but if you're doing that, then
we have repeated ourselves.
Yeah.
Episode to episode.
No, I think he accidentally went to the restart there.
Oh, that's possible.
So just close it and restart.
So ask us a question about something else.
Just hit the reload button on.
We'll talk about it
on your feed there, and that should fix that. So, anyways, as I was saying, put some comments other than your technical questions, which we cannot answer from here, but guitar technical questions we can answer in the comments, and say hi and any of that stuff, and join in the conversation. That's just it's kind of like a radio. We got to do the sign on every 15 minutes or whatever. Remember on radio,
right?
You're listening to WSF.
At the sound of the bell, it is 6:43.
Yeah, we are halfway through this. So we talked about the Guild. We talked about plywood versus solid wood. Wood. So, like we said, solid wood top important. What about the back and sides? What would you say? This happens a lot. We got solid wood guitar for $12.99, and the plywood with the plywood back and sides for $6.99, $7.99. You know, it's a lot of money.
It's, the solid wood body separates the men from the boys. I'm trying to think of top 10 best acoustic guitars I ever heard. If any of them weren't solid wood, I don't think so. And speaking of Guild, the best one I ever owned, which probably not in the top 10, was a 1957 or 8, one of the first years, a D35, I think it was. That, of course, I traded for a fretless bass and regretted it almost instantly. But yeah, it separates the best guitars from the really good ones.
So, okay.
In my opinion.
Yeah, no,
because I don't think Taylor's sound very good.
So yeah.
And I don't like Dave Matthews' guitar sound very much. It's okay.
So here's this is our dynamic here: grumpy old man versus not as grumpy middle-aged man. I got several all solid guitars. The main reason that the ply back and sides is good is durability issues. It kind of it holds on to that top. It doesn't expand and contract as much on its own. It does like a good job of holding the whole thing together. I got out of my car once and just boom, hit the door with my guitar in the gig bag, and it created a crack that was 6 inches long in the side of my guitar. So
be careful with solid wood guitars.
Solid wood guitars can be definitely more fragile. That's for sure.
Plywood is strong, just doesn't sound all that good.
Um, well, let's not dwell on that too long. Let's see what else we got here for topics. No one has suggested a topic in the chat yet, so come on, folks, help us out. We're dying over here.
We may continue repeating ourselves.
Yeah. I just got one topic on my list, and it's not even that good a topic.
Yeah, I'm working on a complicated one, but I can make the bold statement.
Oh, go ahead, make a bold statement.
I haven't even totally.
Let's work it out live right here.
The demise of popular music started when the solid state rectifier was introduced. I even almost had a connection to classical music, but I couldn't quite get it there. But I can almost do it. 1980 or so.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of 100-watt amps that the Who played. 100-watt high watts and Marshalls. Those didn't have rectifiers, right?
I'm not sure about British amps.
Yeah.
But most American amps. But just generally speaking, that loss of responsiveness of feel and tone that you get from a tube amp with a tube rectifier is similar to what I hear in the difference in pop music of 1968 and 2008.
Yeah, it's also the change in taste has led everything to be brighter.
Yeah.
All recordings now, they're just the lowest lows and the highest highs that weren't even available in the record era, anyways, for listening.
Right.
I've noticed that's big, and the use of compression and layers and layers and layers of compression. It's another.
Yeah. Yeah. In modern music, I'm not saying it's good or bad. It's just.
All right. That's one of those end of the show arguments. But we do have a comment from Mike. He says, best way to tell a finished crack from an actual neck crack.
Neck crack?
So a crack. So if you're talking about. So if it's a finished crack, it won't follow the grain of the wood. So wood likes to crack along its grain. That's where its weakness is, where the grains kind of interweave each other. So when you break a guitar, like if you break your neck, it doesn't shear off completely. It goes with the grain. And so if you're looking at something like on a neck that's a finish flaw, like a little crack to the finish, check to see its relation to the grain. And if it doesn't seem to be going with the grain, probably finish check.
It takes some chutzpah. I presume you're talking about cracking up here.
Yeah.
That's where guitar necks crack. If you see a crack here, go like this.
Yeah, just yank
if it
on
opens up, it's a crack in the wood.
See it move, yeah.
If it's not opening up, it's just in the finish. You can push pretty hard, and if it is in the wood and you do this, it'll just open up a little bit more, which means it's easier to fix now because you can get some glue in there. If you're talking about body cracks, that's much easier. You put a light inside and you turn out the lights, and if you see any light coming out of the body, that's right through the wood. If you don't see any light, it might still be. Then you get the mirrors out and see if you see the crack on the inside too.
Yeah, and but also it won't want to crack along its grain.
Yeah,
a cross grain or whatever crack will look pretty gnarly. You'll know it's a crack.
Right. And they're not. We sent somebody away with it was a tailor. He has a crack in the back about this long. It starts right at the strap button, goes up to the first brace. It's not open. But the wood, you can push the wood a little bit, but it's not rattling. And we told him, about $100 to fix it, and it's going to have to go down to Peter, and it'd be gone a couple of weeks. He said, "Well, I'm just giving it away." I said, "Well, it works fine. There's no loose bracing.
It could stay like that forever."
Yeah, if you,
because it goes from a glue joint to a glue joint, a horizontal. If you look at this way, it's horizontal.
Probably not going to travel. Probably not going to get any worse. If it ever gets dropped, then that's probably where it's going to get worse.
The braces are still attached, So sometimes a crack still isn't, as long as a crack on the top or the back or side of a guitar, it can be left sometimes.
Yep. And I've known one person who swears that his vintage Martin, after it got a top crack and repaired, sounds better. Likes it
Yeah.
better with the crack
So just lets all that sound out.
or something.
All right, let me catch up with the chat here. We got a good question here from Felly Belly. In your opinion, are custom shop guitars worth the cost in terms of future resale value?
Where's the crystal ball? Let's see. Who knows what's going to happen in 10 or 20 years? Custom shop guitars, Fender, Gibson, they are their best guitars. If you compare them to what you'd pay for a 1960 Paisley Stratocaster, this is a steal at whatever it is.
This one's used, so it is actually a steal.
Yeah. But in 20 years, who knows what the market's going to be like?
Yeah, let's talk a little about that because if you knew what the market was going to be like, Gary wouldn't be sitting here with me. He'd be on his island.
Yeah,
right. So you would have just held on to all those Strats you sold for $300.
Yeah, in 1985, I was starting to think about, okay, what do we got that's going to be worth $1 million in 30 years? I don't know.
So what you do have on the custom shop guitars, as far as just general this and that's about in this subject, is you have rarity. They have a maker's name assigned to it. They have a special serial number. There's X number of them, and there'll never be more again.
And a certificate of authenticity.
You get the certificate, and you get all that stuff with it, and that means something because rarity is basically what drives price. If there's enough of something, the price stays low. If the demand for it doesn't exceed the, and that might be with Guild. That's why old Guilds are cheap for years, and now they're not cheap anymore. So you have built-in scarcity. But you'll never get, so if you buy so the guy who bought this particular custom shop, the former owner, like I said, this was used, he probably paid somewhere, he couldn't even remember exactly, between $4,000 and $5,000 to have the features, to have the one of a kind, this and that. It is for sale in the store for $26,000. So first of all, you should come here and buy this because he took a big drive it off the lot hit.
Yeah.
But his attitude also, he has a big collection of guitars. He was like, I just want to, we'll give him a good price. Yeah. Yeah, that's all right.
To play it.
I'm like, we could ask $32,000 for it, and eventually it might sell. But he came up with the price himself. He said, let's give him a good price. And so here it is. But investment wise, investment guitar, that's a good little rabbit hole.
Well, you could probably buy it right now for $26,000 and sell it for $36,000.
This guitar? Right. Yeah.
You maybe could.
Oh yeah, if you buy it used, then you don't get to drive it off the lot thing.
Right.
So if you buy a used custom shop, it's already used. Look, it's relic. Right. So if you buy a used custom shop guitar, it's a great value because you're getting someone else did the drive it off the lot. The first owner, like this guitar, he got his $1,200 or whatever the hit he's taking, $1,500 worth of enjoyment out of it, according to him. So it's all right. And you got to look at it that way. We're only renting this stuff one way or the other, because eventually it all belongs to someone else. So you literally can't take it with you.
But briefly, investing in guitars for the last 40 years has been pretty safe. They took a hit in 2008, but they're coming back. They're not all the way back yet, but if you're thinking long-term investment of a high-quality guitar, you're probably okay. Worst case scenario, you'll get your money back someday.
Yeah, if you buy that used guitar, that would never be worth less than that. It's already used. But I did a little hoarding. That's why I have 8 harmonies, all solid wood harmonies from the 60s.
Right.
Because they used to be $100 to $200 each, and now they're $600 to $800 each.
Yeah.
So some of that is just find something you like. First of all, so this is a great story. I tell too many stories, but a professor of mine in college, Stuart Doty, told the class one day, he was already an older fellow back then in the early 90s, and he was like, I was at the last Picasso exhibition in Paris back in 1940, whatever. He was a college student studying abroad. And he goes, and they had prints for sale. And I was like, this Picasso guy is going to be somebody. I should buy one of these prints. And in 50 years, it's going to be worth a lot of money. And they said, but I said to myself, I'm going to have to look at this thing for the next 50 years. I don't like it. I'm not buying it. And he didn't buy the Picasso print. Same thing with the guitar investment. You can play the guitar. It's got to be something that you yourself want to own, so that if you can't sell it, if you can't like you flip it or turn it over and something, it's still something you like and you want to own, and that you can sell at a later time.
The opposite of that collectability philosophy. I heard just this morning a story, a woman who was at an auction of a Picasso painting, and somebody bid $120 million for it and won. And she saw him after the auction. She said, what's the name of the painting that you bought? Said,
Yeah.
oh, I don't know.
He was sent by a conglomerate of corporations to
was just
buy into art.
Didn't matter. He's buying a Picasso.
Yeah. Get a Picasso.
Whatever you got. I got $120 million. Give me one.
Yeah. Well, the art world. And so here's the thing about the, because people were like, have we reached peak guitar? And is there like, will guitar prices keep going up? I think the answer is yes, because new guitar prices have shot up and they're not going back down. Used guitar, a used guild that was $500 5 years ago is now $1,200. It's pretty startling how that's changed. So
yeah.
So get something get something that has a limited number of a thing. Don't buy a American Standard Stratocaster as an investment guitar, because they're just they make a million of them a year.
Well, I mean, if you wait 150 years, you might do well.
All right, let me catch up with some comments here.
Yes.
Oh, this is still back to the Mike talking about the neck joint. Some guitars have the scarf joint and some don't. But still, what Jerry was talking about is you can actually see the joint flex. You can see that little crack grow and shrink. So that's the test for that. Then I have an Eastman SS.
They do frequently break on that joint.
Guitar,
yes.
The Strat. Yeah, so Mike also just was noticing the Strat says it looks good. I have a 1979 Yamaha 12-string. I bought it new, and it still sounded good. Yep. But it needs a neck reset. Like I said, I have a guitar that needs a neck reset for the last 20 years. I just don't have it done. And I also think, speaking of open heart surgery, if you need open heart surgery, get it. But don't get any surgeries that you don't need. And don't refret your guitar when it's okay, just because you want jumbo instead of medium frets. And don't do neck resets when you don't need them. But some guitars need help. Fender just raised their prices again. That's what we noticed.
Second time this year, I think.
Second time this year. Second time this,
And is it true they raised their prices to the dealer, but the map prices are staying?
Well, no. So they raised the price to me a month and a half ago.
Right.
And August 1st, they just changed the maps.
Oh, so it was a little 6 weeks there.
There's 6 weeks where if I was selling at map price, I lost an extra $50 on something. They make sure that the dealer eats that difference.
Right.
So they made sure all the dealers are paying the new price, and then they raised their map pricing, which is kind of the across the board minimums that they highly recommend to their dealers if you want to remain a dealer. So it's
of course you can sell them for anything you want, just don't advertise it.
Yeah. You just don't
put it on the internet. Just call for price.
Well, a lot of people do that,
but
also map price is pretty low. It's actually to stop people from underbidding each other so much.
Oh, yeah.
So on Fenders, we can't sell for below map because we put a bag with it, and Fender doesn't include the bag in the map price. Right. And then the margin is so small that it just doesn't even make sense to sell below map. And so the guys who,
Well, I'm talking about selling above map.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of people do that. That's why they put call for price. If you call for the price, well, I can get a Guitar Center for $399. Okay, you can have it for $399.
Well, that's
but
below.
If you didn't ask, it's $449.
Yeah.
Because then we make a decent profit.
Oh, if they're mark everything up, so yeah, that's one thing to do. Some people mark everything at a higher price and then come down to the map if they have to.
Right.
But we don't do that either. We just price things. Some people,
the easy way.
it hurts people sometimes. They come in, they see something they really want. It's obviously used, and they go, can you give me a deal on this? And no, it's been here for like a week, and it's really cool. And I don't think it's overpriced, so we can't give a deal on this thing. There's sometimes we can give deals on things that sit for a while, but so we just put the right price on things and a fair price and just kind of go with that.
Right.
All right, let's see here. Tim Barnes says, I have an old Harmony Sovereign 1203. It's my go-to. I have Gibsons and 2 Martin acoustics, but I'll always grab that 1203 first. Yes, so we speak the same language, Tim. I have had a Sovereign for 20 something years, and I have the Sovereign 12 string, and I have I can't remember all the Harmony designations off the top of my head right now, but the concert size, the mini jumbo size. I got a bunch of them.
Sovereign was that a jumbo, or was sort of
Sovereign
a
was their
jumbo?
version of a jumbo.
It doesn't fit in a dreadnought case. I know that.
It doesn't. It has a wide one bout is wider, one bout is
Right.
narrow. It has Harmony had their own shape.
Right. And they were, until the 70s, I think they were all solid wood. The Sovereigns, at least. They were,
Yeah.
They were Guild was the poor man's Martin. Harmony was the poor man's Guild. I guess.
Yeah. No, I know people who bought the Sovereign. The Sovereign, bluegrass players end up really loving the Sovereign.
Oh, yeah. John Sebastian.
There you go. And folk Americana players.
Right.
But the reason the Sovereigns are so hot now is because of the British blues guys. And people admire, the Americans who admire the British blues guys, they want to play harmony guitars because that's what John Lee Hooker played.
Right.
Or whatever,
Well, he played it because that's all he could afford.
That's what he could afford. And he was made in Chicago, and he lived in Chicago.
Yeah, $29. Okay, I think I can do it.
And then Mike says, it looks like Fender's price increase cascaded to EVH and Charvel products also. Yes, across the board. So let's talk about another minute about price increases because it's on everyone's mind.
Gretches too?
Gretches, yes.
These are all Fender companies.
Yeah, so Fender owns and distributes Gretsch guitars, not the drums.
And Jackson.
And Jackson and Charvel and EVH. Yeah. So Fender, and so part of it is Fender cannot make this stuff fast enough. So why charge less than Sometimes you got to raise your price. If you're losing money selling hot dogs at $1, just sell them for $2. You'll sell half as many hot dogs, but you'll make the same money. And that's kind of Fender. That's a little bit Fender's in, like, what do they have to lose? This would be a good time to raise the price because the prices are going up everywhere on everything. But everyone's telling me, our suppliers, and some of which are importers, container costs have skyrocketed. A container that used to, so you pay for a portion of a container or a container yourself to move all this stuff from Asia to the U.S. for import. Or even the containers coming from Europe for Cremona. And it's gone, something that used to cost $500 now costs $5,000. It's something ridiculously like KMC. Also, they import some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have to pass the price increases on that because they just have no way of they can't tighten their belt anymore on that kind of aspect. So I'm a little sympathetic because the prices of everything are going up, but there's a little opportunism. But prices also got held at 99 for a long time. $199, $299, $399, and then Fender just gave up on that.
Right.
And the difference between going from a guitar $249 to $279, there's no psychological thing that's going to stop someone from buying a guitar that's they want it.
Yeah. It's under $300.
Yeah.
It's more than 200. It's less than 300.
So some of that just makes it easier for them. That they just poke the price a little, and no one seems to back off, and they poke it a little more. So,
I know how to solve the container problem.
Oh,
let's start making stuff in the United States again.
Oh, great idea.
The building that Central Lab Pots where it used to be made in is still there in Dover.
Yeah,
Just got to kick all those bums out and start making some potentiometers
kick
again.
all those hipsters and art spaces out.
Yeah,
and make some pots. Yeah, we'll kick
Don't
that
need no
museum
containers.
out of the Sprague factory and
Yeah.
start making caps. Yeah, that's not going to happen.
I know. It's too bad, though.
It is too bad. Well, let's see. That's a deep. It isn't necessarily too bad. Factory work is pretty brutal. The money is being made. Like if you look at the iPhone costs $50 to make, and they can sell it for $800. And all the money is being made in marketing, design, and just being Apple. And so Apple's making a lot of money getting their product made cheaply. But that money's not being put in a rocket and shot into space, unless it's Amazon, in which case it is. So, yeah. So that's a bad analogy. Money goes somewhere. It's in the economy. So it's I'm less bearish on imported guitars now that I've done a little more research about the economy of it, and and it does give jobs to people who aren't lazy American workers to make guitars and
are they
so,
lazy American workers, or they just can't get a job?
well, we're post-industrial.
Not flipping burgers at McDonald's.
Well, there's that too, because here we are. Here's the big question. I don't want to get in this topic so quick, but we're in the post-industrial world. We're in the information age. Making stuff is no longer an advantage. So we're turning into a nation of waiters and waitresses, and we just take turns selling each other the same cup of coffee. And there is a thing to that. We can't necessarily go on like that forever, or can we?
Well, then you end up with who is president.
All right.
Enough politics. We're not talking politics here.
No, I wasn't talking politics.
No religion,
you brought up
no
the
politics.
President.
I'm sorry.
You brought up the president. I was just talking about.
I think everybody should work in a factory when they're a teenager. It's a life experience.
It is, or work in a kitchen. It's same stress.
Yep,
it lets you know that this is not what you necessarily want to do for the rest of your life.
You see what humanity is about a bit.
Yeah, right. Yeah, like a microcosm of.
Yeah.
So I don't have a problem with the price increase if they are imparting more quality, but they're pushing stuff out so quickly and missing things that it can be less than desirable. Yeah, I mean I know I used to pay $3.99 for a gallon of freshly squeezed orange juice, and now it's $4.29. It's the same oranges. What are you gonna do? You can drink the frozen from concentrate orange juice. The orange is never going to get any better. It's just that's what inflation's all about. This is how we actually stopped last week talking about inflation.
I know it's politics.
It's not politics. Inflation is monetary policy, which is
politics.
No, it's inflation.
I'm not going to repeat myself.
So. Yeah. Inflation is upon us, folks, and it is here to stay. So grab something and hold on to it tight.
Probably not cash.
Yeah, cash is not necessarily. Well, first of all, do not take financial advice from either of us. We're the ones who got into this mess. But
we got to do what we love.
Well, that's important. And that goes back to buying the
millions.
investment guitar. Buy an investment guitar. Just make sure it's a guitar that you like playing. Because otherwise there's no sense in having it. Because that's buy Bitcoin instead.
Right.
Your chances are similar. Or you buy just whatever, Amazon stock, Apple stock.
Marvel comic books, whatever.
Marvel, that's a tough. If you love Marvel comic books, then buy them, collect them.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Read them carefully.
What do you guys get to consign a guitar? We take 25%.
You get 75%.
You get 75% of what it sells for. What it sells, but
has to be worth more than $400 retail.
Yeah.
Otherwise, 25% is just not worth the
not
trouble.
enough doing the work and putting because here's the other thing, we have to warranty that. So it's like 25%. What are you doing? You're just selling it, but we often repair the guitar and ready it for sale. We warranty the guitar for 90 days after it sells. We have to suck up the 3% credit card charge when people charge a credit card, and 3% of the total number. So if $1,000 guitar sells, we pay $30 in credit card fees, but we get $250. So that's but $30 is not 3% of $250.
It's the entire purchase.
It's yeah. So you pay off the entire purchase, and instead of giving them 3% of our take, we're giving them 10%. So, and it goes on and on like that. So,
But
so
we will take it in trade or buy it outright.
yeah, there's some of that too. But some people, so the advantage of consigning is you can eventually make a little more money when it does sell, if it's something that's going to sell. And so we don't mind doing it. But also we buy and trade as well, and that can be a little, because then the thing's out of your. It's like selling your own car or something. Or sometimes you just want to be rid of the old thing and get into the new. And Mike says, Mark and Gary have always been fair with me on consignments. I have and can vouch for them. Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
We have done a lot of consignment business and trades.
Yep. So, it's just if there's any other consignment is also becoming a lot of big stores aren't consigning anymore. They don't want to bother with it at all.
It's a lot of paperwork and stuff.
Yeah, there's paperwork, there's liability involved in it too. Like I was saying, that's
And you do all the work and you put strings on it, and the guy comes back 2 days later. Oh, I decided to keep it.
Yeah.
Okay, we just put 2 hours of time into it, but thank you. See you later.
That will wrap that up. And it's time to wrap up this whole thing. Our audience is bigger than it has been for the whole thing, but go back and watch the beginning if you're just joining us.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching. Come back next week at 6 o'clock on Wednesday.
We'll be here.
Eastern Standard Time, USA. And we didn't hear from we have an Australian listener, and we have a Irish listener, and probably other places in the world too. So chime in if you're from away. And because that's fun. And check out the other videos here on YouTube, and come to the store, and then Instagram and Facebook and all that stuff. And hit the like button. That does help a lot. And thank you for your support. And get ready to say goodnight.
Yes, thank you for joining us.
And
till then,
our feet are the same.